Welcome to the Silver Screen Project, where we look back at a series of films in anticipation of an exciting new cinema release.
In preparation for the brand new Jurassic World Dominion, we're going back and watching the previous Jurassic World films. Last time round, we watched Jurassic World. This time, we're talking about Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
We are indeed.
Sam, what are your thoughts on Fallen Kingdom?
I think this film is a real mixed bag.
I think that is accurate.
I think it is very clearly in two halves, and I find it quite hard to distinguish between the two because they probably could have been two different films.
When I wrote down my general thoughts of this film, I've written first half good, second half not good.
The thing is about it is that it does a lot of stuff that's very original for the franchise. Not necessarily original, especially in the second half. Even some of the stuff in the first half, the volcano stuff, Stampede stuff, is good. And there's some really good set pieces in that first half. But it just doesn't really get anywhere with it.
It's half like Dinosaur Rescue.
Yes.
And then it turns into just like a B monster movie.
Yeah, and some scenes in that are really good, I think. And there's some stuff which we'll talk about, which I really liked. But it's so in two halves, and even within those halves, it feels like set pieces that don't really gel together.
Yeah, even the tone has a huge shift.
It really does.
So like
the midpoint on the boats in the middle, it's like transitioning between.
The first half is very like tragic and your heart's weeping.
Yeah.
And the second half is just like a children's horror film.
So I said to you before recording, I was trying to think of a word for something, and I didn't want to spoil it for you. But what's a word? I've just thought of it. It's a filler. This whole thing feels, in retrospect, like a filler, and it shouldn't, because there is a lot of good potential in this, and stuff like the auction stuff at the house is stuff that if you heard about that going into it, you're like, wow, this is really interesting. And it's some of the stuff from like Jurassic World 2, like dinosaurs on the mainland, this sort of stuff. It's fun Jurassic Park 2. It's fun, it's interesting, but it's just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think this film does weirdly borrow a lot of elements from Jurassic Park 2. Not only dinosaurs on the mainland, but the whole process of these group of like military people capturing dinosaurs, which is ripped straight out of Jurassic Park 2.
It's almost like they've gone, okay, first film is a recreation of the first one, you know, broadly speaking. Second film is a bit of that as well.
Are you telling me they're going to bring a Spinosaurus into Dominion? Because I'll be so happy if
I've got a little checklist of things that I am hoping, and I say hoping, I'm assuming are going to be in the third film, based on what are in these first two films.
We will get to
that. What stuff did you like about this film, Lewis?
So to open, I think the opening scene is great.
I agree.
The submarine and like, they're all dead, but the mosasaur being a creeping tension.
Yeah.
And then also the T-Rex being there is so reminiscent of the opening scene of the first film.
It is,
but not in a copying it way, in a really great like.
It's a nice
nod to that.
It's the best thing they do in this film that is a take on an original thing.
Yeah.
And it's the only thing that really works in this film for me.
You think they've got away, then the mosasaur.
Yeah, which is again, it's something playback from the previous film, but it works really well. Even the scene where you see the submarine, it's lights underwater, and then it's just gone, and you see like the shadow go over it as it's eaten solidly.
That
like
opening
some really cool
scene
stuff.
Is great, and generally like the first half is good. I think that the trying to escape Blue getting shot is heartbreaking.
You can see it coming, and you can see you know the especially the lead hunter guy. It's so obvious. He's like the guy from Avatar. Like he really is. It's so obvious, but he plays it well, and he's a good character for what he is.
But the whole like volcano debate about whether it's science, and then it kind of builds up, and I still remember in cinemas that scene of the Brachiosaurus at the docks as the smoke, the fire and smoke is kind of coming over it, is really well done, and it's really well shot, and it is truly heartbreaking.
Yeah, I think that's good, and it's a good cap to that part of the story. But like you say, then it kind of meanders, and just to go back to some of the kind of stampede stuff, I think there's some really good set pieces in that, and you see the gyroscopes come back in again.
Yeah.
And then there's the really cool, it appears to be a one shot where they're kind of drowning in the gyroscope, and it's quite tense, and
Chris Pratt comes down and then he
goes back up.
Yeah.
That's all very well done, but it's that, and then back to back with that is them running away from the volcano, which feels like something from like 2012, like Roland Emmerich. And then they do like the magic gear stick to get the car to jump over, and it's all it's lots of silly stuff in a row that kind of works. And then suddenly you've got this emotional moment that you mentioned, which I think that kind of 15 minutes of it is a really decent part of the film. But it takes a while to get there. And the stuff with the dinosaur charity is like, it's an interesting theoretical, and it's bringing it real world, but it's almost just a bookend to it, and it doesn't really.
And I like what they've done with Bryce Dallas Howard's character and going from director of the park to this dinosaur
she's almost got
activist.
This like moral kind of debt that she's repaying. That we get two new characters that are okay, but there's a period of this film where they're not in it for literally 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize until they came back on screen.
And they're very much characters from this era of films.
Yes.
These characters would not have appeared in a film 10 years earlier or 10 years later.
There are moments in this, and I'm sorry to say I can't name any of them, where I looked at Amy and we both said, that's a very normal thing for a normal person to say in this situation. There are moments where the nerdy guy is making jokes, and well, he's saying like sad sap things, and Chris Pratt's like, I rode a bike through the jungle with raptors, and it's like it's moments that were clearly made for a trailer, and it's me looking at it cynically, but it's that plus stuff with Jeff Goldblum where he again bookends this film. And you watch the trailer and you're like, wow, Jeff Goldblum's in it. No,
he's not.
They got Jeff Goldblum in to record a scene for the trailer for about $5 million. You know, it's like
so before we fully go into negatives on everybody's side,
I'm sure I've got some more.
The videos of Owen training the baby raptors are great. They're very cute.
And it works for the plot as well.
Showing the backstory of Blue and how Blue has far more empathy than most animals.
Mm-hmm.
All great. The other thing that I thought was a really if you take it out of context, really fun scene was them getting the blood out of the T-Rex.
Yeah, it feels practical as well, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it feels real well.
It was a real
animatronic
thing.
Yeah.
And them just jumping on the back of the T-Rex. It's just a fun scene.
Yeah, it is fun. And the auction scene that I mentioned earlier, the scene itself I don't think is great, but the concept of having this kind of black market thing, and it's a good way of kind of real world dinosaur, bring it into the
Toby
real
Jones really does play that character well.
There's a funny moment where, well, it's not a funny moment. There's a moment when Toby Jones and what's the other guy called?
Rafe
Spall are both there doing these very okay American accents, and it's like, oh yes, that's two American men talking to each other. Yes, it is.
One of which I have met.
Oh really?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know if I know which one.
Tell that story later.
That's a different story for a different time. Yeah.
But on them, kind of going into negatives, I thought the bad guys in general were extreme generic, particularly Rafe Spall.
Yeah, you can see it coming.
It's just like, I'm just evil for the sake of evil.
I love money, and I'm going to kill an old man.
I'm going to kill an old man and kidnap a child because I'm evil.
Yeah, it's not great, is it? Like he isn't. Like the hunter guy is almost a better bad guy than him in a lot of ways, and he's super one-dimensional as well.
The other thing that I thought you said, the auction is a fun thing, but dinosaurs are way cheaper than they would be in real life. Like you've got these like Ankylosaurus being sold for like $4 million, and it's like, that's less than like a supercar.
Yeah, absolutely. Like they're aiming this way low, and it's not that old of a film. It's like 2018 or something.
They're probably worried about like overdoing it. But if you told me that dinosaur's going for like $100 million, I'd be like, Yeah, it's a fucking dinosaur.
They start the prototype Indoraptor, which we'll talk about, I guess, after this. They start that at $20 million,
which is ridiculous. Like,
it's a prototype. There's only one of these. There's never been another.
The American government spend like $1 billion on like a helicarrier.
They could have started that at $1 billion.
Yeah,
and they could have
somebody would have paid
and
it.
they could have had a guy step out the shadows and be like $1 billion. And $1
billion. The CIA, as we've spoken about in previous podcasts on the Project
very recently,
would spend $1 billion on an Indoraptor.
They would, and they literally in this show the practical application with the laser sight and the sound thing. The Indoraptor, I think personally, although it's not a super creative design, I do like the design. It plays on the kind of blue aspect. It's got like a yellow streak to it. It's got the longer arms of the Indominus Rex, which makes it look super creepy. I do think it is quite a good design, generally speaking, if a little bit uncreative.
See, so last time round, I talked about having mixed feelings on the Indominus, being like, I don't really like the idea of it, but in practicality, it's quite a cool thing. I think the Indoraptor takes all the worst parts of the Indominus. I really wasn't a fan of it. And it's just like, let's create like a super dinosaur that can do anything, can is super intelligent.
They say in the previous film, so Vincent D'Onofrio's character talking to Henry Wu is like, oh, what we can do, we can get the Indominus Rex and we can make one a fraction of the size and it'll be this camouflaging super thing. And of course, they don't give this one any of the abilities of the first one, apart from it's got long arms. It's
essentially like a souped up raptor.
It is, yeah.
It's like,
I think they probably had meetings and they were like, can it fly? Oh, that's a bit silly. Can it camouflage? Oh, that's a bit silly. Can it? They took away bits until it ended up
in a lot of like Marvel origin films, you get the good guy.
Sorry, Marvin, did you
say? Marvel origin films. You get the good guy, and then you get an evil version of the good guy.
Oh yeah, it's that.
It's the evil version of a raptor.
It's the warmonger or whatever he's called.
Yeah, it's the yellow jacket.
Absolutely. It is. Yeah.
So I thought that was a bit dumb.
But I think there's some of the scenes. So I think that whole, it's not even the last third, it's the last kind of half an hour maybe, where it's pretty much the main characters with the little girl who turns out to be a clone. Don't really have any,
into that.
Don't have super strong feelings about that, but I sense that you do. It's them running away from this evil monster dinosaur.
Yeah.
A lot of that is not anything, but I think there's moments that are good in that. The moments where they're running down the corridor and it's barreling after her, I think there's some genuinely tense moments there.
Yeah.
And the moment when she does the stupidest thing in the world and hides in her bed, not under her bed, and it comes through the window in this horror movie, nightmare monster kind of thing, and it's reaching its claw across to her. There's, again, trailer moments, but I think those are some good moments from the film.
That final bit, I hated it. Partly because, like I said, it's horror stuff. It stops feeling like a Jurassic Park movie.
Think about the raptors in the kitchen. Like, it's not far off that,
but they are still like clearly just dinosaurs chasing after people.
Yeah,
this is this hybrid monster, and that bit of reaching out, which is like a reference to Nosferatu.
Yes, right. Yeah,
it's too like personifying of this monster. Like,
why is this
dinosaur just standing, reaching its hand out? It's for the shot.
And
I'm just like, this stopped being a Jurassic Park movie like 20 minutes ago.
I just think that there's stuff in the first film which you could argue is as silly as that.
Yeah, silly, but well within the universe.
I think the stuff with Blue and how personified Blue is on par with some of this, but
I think we'll have to agree to disagree. You briefly mentioned the fact that it turns out the girl is a clone, which, whilst I guess makes sense in the universe, is super fucking dumb.
And it doesn't make any sense.
I hate it
and
so much.
The funny thing is, there's a point where Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard are at one point called you two, between the two of you, you're the parents of the new world, and they literally become the parents of this first human clone. It's very silly.
And I literally wrote down the quotes. At the final thing, they have to decide whether or not to let the dinosaurs out into the world.
Yes.
And Bryce Dallas Howard and Chris Pratt decide no, because
she's got this, again, moral debt, and she's tried to pay it back throughout the film, but she decides it's not worth it.
And they're looking at the door feeling sad, and then the gate opens, and they turn to this little girl, and she says, "I had to. They're alive, like me."
Yes.
It's a terrible, terrible line.
It is, yeah.
And obviously, it makes you realise that this whole film was set up to that moment so that they could do Jurassic World Dominion next.
I've got two things to say. One is directly about that, but one is just jumping back very quickly to how they broke Claire and Owen up again, just so they could put them back together again. Yeah. And it just makes me think they're horny for danger. And I won't be disapproved of that at all.
They are horny for danger.
The second thing is that I do not believe that 20 dinosaurs escaping equates to a Jurassic World of any sort.
Yes.
Into mainland America, the United States of America, there's no way, even if each of those had 3 babies, which they won't. And Joe, that's not a Jurassic fucking world.
We've already seen more dinosaurs in the Dominion trailer than left that building.
There's more dinosaurs in Jurassic Park than there are in that fucking garage.
Also, we literally see them all leave the building because we're there outside us. And they all kind of come, and then
it's like 20,
and then you get the last couple of few come
maybe
through.
30. Like, it's not.
Yeah,
and they're all. I know that they can reproduce asexually because we had that in Jurassic Park 3, 2. It's after they. I think it might be 3 because they. Oh no, in 1.
Yeah, I was gonna say
it's in 1 because it's the seatbelts. Yeah. Okay, yeah, but even if that happens, like, also it's not that hard for a helicopter with like heat vision to just shoot all these dinosaurs.
Also, there's most of those dinosaurs that walk out at the end. Yeah, most of them are herbivores that wouldn't cause any harm. Would just live in the woods and do their own thing.
It's a really interesting concept. This is why I say it's a bit of a filler. It's really, really interesting to have them out in the world and doing stuff. And the clips and bits we've seen. I don't know if you watched that like 10-minute thing that was like an in-between call that they released.
No, but I probably will.
Yeah, it's like a outdoor cinema. No, it's not an outdoor cinema. It's like a campground, and like dinosaurs start fighting in it, and people are like, and it's like it's cool. But it's not the scale that we need for it to become like an almost apocalyptic thing, and it's just like, it's just a shame, really.
Yeah. So I do have a couple of bits of trivia, one of which I came up with myself.
Whoa.
And that is this film. It has a scene
where... You can tell you came up with it yourself, can't you?
Bryce Dallas Howard and the nerdy guy locked in a room at one point with lava dripping in.
Yes.
And the baryonyx comes through the tunnel.
That's right,
The baryonyx dinosaur is the dinosaur in all these films that is actually local to us.
Really?
And
okay.
would have lived on what is now the south coast of England.
Okay, interesting.
And I think has been found in the South Downs. So
amazing. Oh, nice. Very good.
That is our local dinosaur, our local representation in these films.
the dinosaur.
Barry the dinosaur. Yeah. The other bits that I actually looked up. Sam Neill was asked if he'd return to the franchise as Dr. Alan Grant and responded, "You never say never, but I think it's moved on. It's different times.
Not this script."
And I'm kind of glad he's not in this because he would have just been what Jeff Goldblum was.
Yeah.
He's in Dominion and looks like he's going to have a bigger role, which is what we want from him.
Yeah, it looks like they're going full in, but we'll talk about that in a moment, I think, maybe.
And the other bit I've got is 5 animatronic dinosaurs were created for this movie, unlike Jurassic World, which only featured 1.
Right.
So they did go more into the animatronics.
Yeah. I guess the T-Rex with the blood transfusions.
Is the most notable one.
And maybe I think Blue, some of the close-ups maybe as well. Yeah. When she's on the table.
And maybe just some of the general, when they're close up the dinosaurs, like the Pachycephalosaurus scene, which we didn't mention, but is a fun little scene.
Through the wall. It's a good bit,
I think because this film compared to the last is more close up to the dinosaurs, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's more close quarters. It's the second half is very small scale in lots of ways.
Yeah.
Makes
But yeah,
sense.
that's my bits of trivia.
Yeah, so I
Um,
mentioned that I had a little bit of a kind of checklist for the upcoming film there, and it's more predictions, but it's checklists that we can come back to.
right,
Um,
okay.
and the three things on the checklist, two of which are kind of with the same thing. One is the T-Rex, and the T-Rex shows up and does something cool,
Yeah, which will almost definitely
which
happen.
almost definitely will happen. The second one is the T-Rex does a big roar near the end, which you could say is the same thing.
Yeah.
And the third one is Blue saves the day at least once, if not twice.
Yeah.
All three of those things have happened in both of these films, and the T-Rex stuff has happened in almost every film so far.
I think
I'm not complaining. I'm just analysing the films.
4 of the 5 films end with a T-Rex roar, I think.
Yeah.
In the third one, the T-Rex gets killed.
See, in this one, the T-Rex roars towards the end when it comes out and kind of half saves the day. It's not the very final shot. There's kind of more general kind of stuff, but yeah. But generally speaking, what kind of stuff are you hoping for?
So I just want them. So they're bringing back Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum. Who Jeff Goldblum's in the second, Alan Grant and Laura Dern are in the third.
Yes, is Laura Dern in that one as well?
Yeah, but she's not on the island.
Yeah.
Where there's the kid who's watching Barney the Dinosaur, which is a great scene.
Yeah.
But it's the first time we've seen all 3 of them together since the first film. And I'm really looking forward to seeing them all together again.
Yeah.
And I just hope they do it well.
Yeah, I don't really know what this film's going to be about. I think when we saw Doctor Strange, we saw a full trailer, and there was kind of implications of saving Blue from something, or something going on.
All I'm really aware of in this film is that Blue's got a kid, and there's dinosaurs running amok.
Yeah, I'm hoping that. Yeah, I don't know, and I'm happy about that. But I hope they've said that this is the end of this saga of films.
Yeah.
I would really, really hope. Part of me hopes, but also is kind of hesitant that maybe they somehow up the scale. I don't know how. Like, Henry Wu has been making even more dinosaurs. Because at the end of this film, we do see that the DNA has been taken away.
Yeah.
So there's a chance there's more labs going.
Yeah. I mean, like potentially worst case, it will just be the second half of the second film, the Lost World film, where it's just a T-Rex walking around the town.
It may well be, yeah. I mean, Camp Cretaceous that I mentioned either in this episode or the last one, it touches on stuff with extra dinosaurs that have been made. I think there's even kind of more Ice Age creatures in it at some point. Right. I don't know how much
that could be a next step for the franchise, I guess.
And there's a rival corporation in that, which I doubt they'll introduce in this third film. But there's a lot going on there. One of the things that I meant to mention earlier on is some of the early concepts for these reboot series were the concepts of dinosaur human hybrids.
I knew you were gonna say
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And it was soldiers that were like.
Have you seen the pictures? It looks horrendous.
Yeah. And I don't think they'll go that way, but I'd kind of like it if they just went for it. I know it's so stupid.
So glad they didn't.
But they might still.
I think they replaced
I think they might reference it just so it's like.
I think they replaced that with the Indominus and the girl being a clone.
Yes, but now they've done a bit of both. It's setting the stage for it. Yeah.
I hope more than anything else, it just gives a really good ending to this trilogy. Because although this trilogy has its ups and downs, I think
it's
across the 2 films, I'd say the first 3/4 of those 2 films are pretty good and pretty fun.
Yeah.
And we probably may get another trilogy in 10 years, perhaps with Bryce Dallas Howard directing.
I think, well, she's done a lot of Mandalorian stuff.
Yeah, apparently she's been rumored to do the Fantastic Four film.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
But yes, I just hope they cap this off well. I'm just hoping for fun dinosaur stuff.
I think we'll get a lot of that. I think at the very minimum, we'll get a lot of fun dinosaur stuff, and Blue will have some moments. I don't know if Blue will make it past this film.
No,
and I think that will be the big tearjerker of the.
But I think they've kind of come to the realization, similar with like the Godzilla films, in that people aren't necessarily going to see these films for the human characters.
Absolutely,
they're going to see the monsters.
They are,
and play up the monsters. If you got one unrealistic hope that you'd love to see that probably won't happen,
human dinosaur hybrids.
Human dinosaur.
No, I think I remember hearing something about another hybrid, not human dinosaur, but like another new Indominus style thing. It's not a hope, but it's, if they do that well, they might finally nail the hybrid. So that would be my ideal.
I want a Spinosaurus.
Maybe it will have Spinosaurus DNA.
I think the Spinosaurus survived the end of the third film.
Yeah, I think
so it's just hanging out there.
There's
and Spinosauruses can swim, so it could swim to Costa Rica, cause some chaos. Yeah. That's what I want. And the final thing to ask is, does Jurassic Park Fallen Kingdom,
World Fallen Kingdom,
Jurassic World, give you more or less hype for Jurassic World Dominion, Proj Yes or Proj No?
I think it's probably in itself a Proj No, but I'm still excited. But the film didn't help that excitement.
Yeah, I think on this, I said last time round that like my hype is big already. That Jurassic World didn't really add to it. It did, but having that pre-hype, then watch Jurassic World. I think I'm also going to go Proj No.
Yeah.
Just partly because I'm kind of as hyped as I can get for that film.
Yeah.
And the second half of this film I didn't really enjoy.
Enough. Yeah.
So join us next time round. We're going to see Jurassic World Dominion in time of recording tomorrow.
Yeah.
In time of release, we may already have watched it, but the episode may come out tomorrow or at some point. And we will share our thoughts then. So catch us then. If you've got thoughts on Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, you can get in contact with us. Details on the link tree.
They are.
And you can listen to the project for further details. But apart from that, I look forward to hearing you roar after Jurassic World Dominion.
And I will just see you next time. I've got no Jurassic Park puns today.
I was gonna roar, but I just said roar, so I can't.
Roar.
Clever girl.
Bye.